This book legitimately saved one of my games because a few sessions ago I was in dire need of a trap because it just didn't make any sense for there not to be a trap at that time and place in my campaign. So I took upon a set of dice and rolled myself a random trap. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Treacherous and today I want to talk about how Treacherous Traps saved one of my sessions. Now, it wasn't the first time that this happened, and every time when it happens I tell myself I need to make a video about this situation, and every time I kind of forget or I start making videos about other random stuff and I lose track of it. But now again I have a very good situation that happened in my campaign to talk about, and why Treacherous Traps is one of those books if you like dungeon crawls, if you like that boots on the ground, dirty or dangerous gameplay that is Dungeons and Dragons, then Treacherous Traps is just something that you need to have on your shelf to, like, every now and then you take it, you browse through it for a perfect trap to use in your game, or, and this is what I mainly want to talk about right here in this video, is you randomly roll up yourself a trap. Nord Games makes a ton of books with random rolling, generating tables for random stuff like random cities, random settlements, random dungeons, all of that stuff. And Treacherous Traps has a really simplistic, but really good and straightforward and really quick system to roll yourself a random trap. So in this video, I want to talk about why it made sense in that situation. It made no sense for there to not be a trap. There needed to be a trap in that situation in my campaign, and Treacherous Traps just helped me out last minute. Now, before we take a look at the PDF and I talk to you about what happened in my game and we roll up a random trap just here live in this video, I want to talk about what you get for your money. But first of all, if you click the link in the description below, first of all, that's an affiliate link. I get a few bucks if you pick up this book. But more importantly, if you add 5 card decks by Nord Games to your cart, you'll get a $70 discount on that, which means you get 5 card decks, and they make really cool card decks for only $5 with your order. So click the link in the description below, order yourself a book from Nord Games, doesn't matter which one, and then order yourself 5 card decks, and you'll have those 5 card decks for $5. I just noticed that when doing research for this video, so it might be really cool for you to pick that up. Now, what you get: Treacherous Traps is an incredible resource for game masters looking to get more out of their dungeon design. It has 250 pre-built traps ranging in level and lethality, which is really cool, so that you can always find the perfect trap to challenge your players. Now, that's cool. 250 pre-built traps with triggers, effects, lethality rating. Some are just like they're just like a minor inconvenience, right? Some are barely an inconvenience. Some are completely, utterly lethal and should not be used in your games, or should be nerfed a little bit for you to use them in your games. But then, more importantly to me, because this is where Nord Games absolutely shines, is also included is a random trap generator consisting of 50 trap triggers and 50 trap effects that, when combined, create up to 2,500 different combinations. Now, that's all there is about the random trap generator. That's all there is. There's 250 traps, and then there is 50 triggers and 50 effects that you can combine to your liking. It's simple, it's fast, it's straightforward, and it is absolutely fun. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the PDF to Treacherous Traps, more specifically the random trap generation section in the book, which is for me the most important part of the book because I really like random generators for different types of things. Now, if you know me, you know I love books that serve a purpose. I really am attracted to books that sit on your shelf for a while, and then for like one specific surface, you take it out, you use it for what it needs to do, and then you put it back for just a few sessions later to just grab again, use it for what it's used, built for, and then use it again. And Treacherous Traps is exactly that, because it is all about treacherous traps, basically. Now, before we do this, before we roll up ourselves a random trap, I just want to talk about why I use this and how I use this. So if you know me and you've been following my channel, you probably know that I've been playing and running Scarlet Citadel for my players. Now, my players went into Scarlet Citadel. I'm going to keep this short. Picked a fight in level 3 of the Scarlet Citadel with a bunch of trolls. There's a bunch of trolls in there that completely murdered the party. Like, there are 3 people or 2 people, I think 3 people out of the 5 died. So they got to roll up new characters in the city of, the town of, Redwood City, Redwood Town. it's called Redwood, and they look for new adventurers, which were the new characters for the players, and then they decided to do a side quest with a giant, which I also talked about on my channel, and then go back into the Scarlet Citadel. Now, tabletop RPGs are not a video game. So what I mean by that is, it's not because you left a dungeon a certain way. Like in The Legend of Zelda, you leave a dungeon because it's too hard, you go back in, it's exactly the same, right? For almost every video game, it's exactly the same. Nothing you've done in there or whatever changes. You just need to go back in and try again, right? And that's not true for tabletop RPGs, at least not in my campaigns. My players built like this entire plan to go back to the trolls and defeat them, just going off of what they think the trolls were doing, because they thought the trolls were doing exactly the same thing they were doing the first time around, like 5 or 6 sessions before that, but they did an entire side quest in between that. Also, the trolls knew they were coming this time, so the trolls had to set up traps. The only thing that made sense for the trolls to do is set up traps. Now, the problem is, I didn't really prepare for that session enough, and right before the session, I was like, oh my god, I need a few trap IDs. And this is where the random trap generator comes in. It's really simplistic. It's really straightforward, but it's really cool. So trigger and effect generation table. As you can see, there is a D100 table here, and you can roll on that one twice. And you roll basically for a trigger, and then you roll for an effect. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit and then check if you guys can still see this. Yes. So you roll for a trigger. Can you guys still see this? I'm just gonna do this, right? You roll for a trigger and you roll for an effect. And with every trigger, there's a page number, and with every effect, there is a page number. Basically, this is what I've done. I rolled a few times, came up with a few combinations, and used all of those combinations. I used like a tripwire, fall into a pit, like super simple thing. I used a gas chamber kind of thing. I used darts. I just used whatever came up from the dice. And yeah, let's just do that like here once and just show you. Also, as you can see, if you roll up to 40, you have a mundane type trigger. If you roll from 41 all the way up to 60, you have ambiguous. And then if you have 61 all the way up to 100, it's a magical trigger or a magical effect. So it's always trigger and effect. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna create a trap. This might end up being the worst trap ever, because they talk about that in this book. They talk about unlikely combinations. Generating traps is not without its idiosyncrasies. Every combination of trigger and effect presents in this section can work together, but some may require a little extra thought. Now, that's the fun part, right? For me, basically, that's the fun part. You come up with a trap, like a trigger and an effect, and then you, as a game master, you just like find whatever makes sense for you, right? So let's just roll a D100, randomly roll one. This is a 13, so it's gonna be a mundane trigger, right? 13, it's open or close the door. Couldn't be simpler, right? You can also, by the way, there's a D20 or D10 part here. If you are like, I really need a mundane trigger, and that's the smart part about this table. If you really need a mundane trigger and you don't want an ambiguous or a magical trigger, you can roll right here a D20. Or if you want especially a magical trigger, you can roll here a D20, right? So that's really cool. So you can either roll a D100 to make it completely random, or you can roll a D20 to really narrow it down, and there isn't need for a separate table. This table has a lot going on in one table, which is great. So what did we say? Open or close a door. So there's this door in the dungeon, and you either close it or you open it, and it triggers the trap. Let's say it's close a door. This could be really cool. There's this door that's open in the dungeon. Normally, I never thought about this. Dungeons are normally full of closed doors, but what if there's like literally an open door to like a kitchen or whatever, right? Your players walk in, and then they hear some rumble from somewhere else, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna quickly close the door. But closing the door actually triggers the trap. This is cool. This could be cool. Let's go for a magical... So open and closing the door, you can also go to page 115 to basically go to, like, they explain what opening and closing a door is they give you countermeasures to like see the trap or dismantle the trap or whatever. They just talk about like what opening and closing a door is. Now we all know what opening and closing a door is, but they talk more about like every little thing in here. They like further in the book, they talk about like specifically for a dungeon or whatever situation that can mean in terms of countermeasures, in terms of seeing stuff and that kind of stuff. So more GM advice specifically for that part, right? So let's roll a magical effect on a mundane trigger. Magical effect, let's roll a d20. D20, where's my d20? Let's roll a d20. And I rolled a 14, which means it is a suggestion. Suggestion on page 100 and what? 133. Okay, this could be interesting. Let's jump there. I don't know what to make of this, but yeah, why not? Suggestion, right here. The trap implants a course of activity, limited to a sentence or two, into the minds of creatures in the area, and magically influences them to carry out that ID. The suggestion must be worded in such a manner as to make the course of action sound reasonable. A suggestion that makes a creature stab itself, throw itself into a spear, immolate itself, or do some other obviously harmful act doesn't take hold in the target creature's mind. The effect. Target creatures must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, it pursues the course of action implanted by the trap described to the best of its abilities. Creatures that can't be charmed are immune to this effect. So it's basically a suggestion spell, right? The suggested course of action can continue for the entire duration of the effect, determined by the trap's lethality. If the suggested activity can be blah 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 blah. Casting Dispel Magic on a creature affected by the trap ends the effect for that creature. So basically, whatever. It's most of the time, like, suggestion is more like a mundane thing that can have great consequences. So in the surface, it's often a really mundane suggestion, but long term it could really have consequences. For example, you close the door behind you, and something suggests you to pour out your entire every flask of water that you have on the floor, right? Gone. No more water, no more rations. To just like throw away your rations or something like that. I don't know. To completely strip off your armor and your weapons. To just be in your underwear. Something like that. And then suddenly these trolls or these dwarves or whatever, they rush in, and there's like 2 out of 5 people are just standing there in their underwear, and the other 3 are like, why the fuck are you stripping down? This could be a trap. This could be a really cool trap. There's this kitchen with an open door. You go in, you close the door, and suddenly something inside you tells you to strip down from your armor and your weapons. For only 20 seconds later, 3 orcs to run into the kitchen and start pounding away at the party who's now without armor and weapons. That could be really fun. That could be a really, really cool trap. And that's how you build random traps from this random trap generator. Sometimes at first sight, it's not really, and that's what I like about it. It's not really like, it doesn't make sense. Like, what you're like, okay, you close the door and then a suggestion happens, what could happen? But often for your dungeon or your situation, you can make it make sense, and that's part of the fun for me. For me, as a game master, number 1 rule for new game masters, I always tell them is, it's also a game for you. Treat it as a game. It's not, you're not a god, you're not like, it's a game, and it needs to stay a game. And for that, this type of stuff really helps with that, because you now get stuff thrown at you and you need to make something out of that, which makes it a game within a game for you as a game master as well. And that's it for Treacherous Traps for today. I just wanted to point out that this book still exists, and it is helping my campaign on a lot of moments. A lot of times I just grab this book, roll up a few traps, or take a pre-written trap from this book and use it in my game. And this year, 2025, I actually want to do more videos where I talk like specific situations that happened in my game, so you might find the right book for your campaign as well, because I really like books that serve a purpose, that are usable, that are quick access, and that you can just take from your shelf, use for whatever it is written for, and then put it back onto your shelf. That's what I like about books, and that is what I like about Treacherous Traps. If you want to pick it up for yourself and get 5 card decks from Nord Games for only $5, $5. Make sure to click the link in the description below. If you like this kind of content, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, hit me up with a comment, and until next video, bye bye.